flowers on your stone. We both know that I was wrong. We both know I'm not like that anymore. I'm not far behind. We both know that I was wrong. We both know I'm not like that anymore.
You are listening to By the Burial Ground, hosted by paranormal investigators Tyler Carter and Chris Stanley.
Yes, I am.
I know we're ready for next episode.
I know we're all ready for next episode. We were kind of worn out yesterday just because it's been a long weekend.
Yeah. All right, guys, and you are listening to By the Burial Ground, your paranormal website, your paranormal podcast coming to you from the burial ground. Well, not from the burial ground, but we're right there. You know, we can see it.
We're close enough.
I can look out the window. So, as I mentioned in the last episode, this week we're talking about cryptids. You know, we're talking about your Bigfoots, your chupacabras, your, Loch Ness monsters, all the different things that are just strange creatures that science has not categorized as actually a species. As soon as something is like, they confirm it, it's there, they know it, boom, it's not a cryptid anymore. It automatically just becomes part of the species list,
It's almost like they don't want to be found. They just want to be mysterious and left alone.
And we're from Ohio, as we've mentioned many times before, and Ohio has its own, pretty rock star list of cryptids. One of the funniest ones, and it's actually been used as the idea for a play now, but it's called the Loveland Frogmen. And it's a 3 to 4 foot tall frog-like creatures, but it stands on its, back legs and has been known to walk in packs and communicate and use wands and has interacted with people and scared people off and has been reported as recently as 2016. And there was once in the 70s a couple of police officers who thought they had seen it. One had reported it, and then a couple of weeks later the other had actually reported it and shot it. And it wasn't a frog or a Loveland frog, man. It was actually a iguana that was trying to climb a fence, and it was standing on his back legs. So it looked like this almost humanoid creature.
Almost people can mistake it for a frogman type creature because they do get pretty big.
But the other reportings have actually said that the creatures were communicating. So, iguanas aren't known to make any kind of communication noise that would be mistaken for a language. They make some noises, but they don't make.
They just crawl around and stick their tongue out and say nothing.
And Ohio has its own, Bigfoot Yeti-like creature called the Grassman, who's actually been reported to have been more aggressive than any other of the, cryptid Bigfoot, Yeti creatures, and has broken into people's homes, attacked people in forests, and, it's been known to give off a pretty crazy stench, like the skunk ape out of Florida, but it's,
maybe they're descendants of Bigfoot and Yetis and all that, too.
Well, some of the theories, and you get into it a lot with, one of the other ones on the Ohio roster, the Peninsula Python, is there have been train crashes in the past throughout history that have
Yes.
contained animals and stuff. Now, the majority of the time, they recover most of the animals, but like in the sake of
Some of them got away, of course.
exactly, like in the case of the peninsula python, it was an over 20-foot python, which is now something that people have seen out there because of the different, giant like anacondas and things like that. And it's not a stretch to say that if one of these trains crashed, the animals got loose, this python in the wild would grow bigger because it was eating much bigger prey and things
Maybe
like.
it could be around Helltown, which is pretty much in Peninsula. Maybe that's why they had people move out, because some of these things escaped. Never thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the most legendary cryptids is the Mothman. The Mothman has been mentioned in countless, countless things, but they usually reference the Mothman to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, because that was where it had made a lot of its sightings and attacks and things like that.
That's where they have the statue and everything.
Exactly, but it actually goes back to Native American culture in Ohio area by the Ohio River, and there were plenty of sightings in the Ohio River area before there were those actual reports in the West Virginia.
I was wonder why they haven't said anything before that.
Well, and there's been some reports and some things like that, but it's crazy to think that one of the most legendary, cryptids actually came out of Ohio.
Yeah, right down close to West Virginia, actually. But it could be to say, hey, West Virginia, we claimed it. Maybe it started in Ohio, but no one's actually said anything.
Exactly. I mean, it's cool to have those kind of connections to the Mothman like that. Another interesting one and kind of frightening is the Mill Lake monster, and we're talking about like this 7-foot like humanoid creature that has this like amphibious quality to it. These webbed feet and no arms, and these glowing eyes. So imagine this coming out of the water.
Something not like the Swamp Man we saw in the classic movie.
Yeah, it
movies
sounds a
back
little
then.
bit more terrifying. I mean, the swamp,
Yeah,
like the swamp
Swamp
man,
Thing.
and the swamp thing, and the creature of the Black Lagoon and everything. The
Oh, yeah.
creatures, they're interesting, but this thing sounds, terrifying, and I definitely wouldn't want to run into it.
Yeah, exactly, because we're a lot near metro parks in Ohio, and some of these things have been in those parks that they talk about.
Exactly, and I know that we've all been, interested by the Loch Ness monster because that's one of the bigger cryptids out there.
Nelly.
But Cleveland has its own Lake Erie monster. They actually named the hockey team after it,
I know,
but called
kinda
Bessie.
Funny, huh?
And it was another very similar to the Loch Ness monster and all the features, and a prehistoric creature still living, and it had apparently sank a sailboat and made multiple attacks. And there was even in 1991, which is the year I was born, they had like this footage, and it was as clear as the famous Nessie footage, and it's
Which they can still get a clear shot, which is weird.
yeah, it's
Why is that?
oh, and they've done multiple sweeps of it, and they've gone back and forth and back and forth. But it's interesting that Ohio has all these different ties to all these, cryptids.
And you just told me about them, and some of them I have, but some not really. I haven't.
Yeah. We've also had reports of like dogmen, these like werewolf-like creatures, which there's a connection to the dogmen out of Michigan, because there's like these dogman creatures, and they're like 4 to 5 foot wolf-like creatures, but walk on their hind legs and have more of a humanoid feature to them. And that's interesting because, there are groups out there who actually claim to be, werewolf hunters, and you've seen it in the movies, like with Van Helsing and
Yep.
some of the other movies out there where werewolf hunting doesn't seem like any kind of career you would want to get into.
Right. That'd be kind of scary, actually.
I got two more out of Ohio real quick.
Go for it.
One is the Melonheads. Now, if anybody has seen Toxic Avengers, think about his face and like all the distortion and the bumps and all the things like that. These Melonhead creatures, which have been reported through Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut, and the information I'm pulling is mostly from like Wikipedia and things like that, but it's pretty familiar with the information I've read about it or seen about it before. It was theorized in the 1970s, who occasionally, described as small humanoids with bulbous heads, which occasionally emerged from hiding places to attack people. Different variations of legends attribute different origins. Now, there's a Michigan legend, which is set around Felt, Michigan, and there was an insane asylum, and there was a bunch of things that went on there. The one I really want to get into is the legend from Ohio, obviously.
Right.
But it's actually the most interesting out of the three, and the legend goes that the Melon story of Ohio are primarily associated with the Cleveland suburb of Kirtland. According to local lore, the Melonheads were originally orphans under the watch of a mysterious figure known as Dr. Crow, sometimes spelled Crowe, Krohe, and Kroh, but known as Dr. Melonhead. Crow is said to have performed unusual experiments on the children, who developed large, hairless heads and malformed bodies. Some accounts claim the children were already suffering from hydrocephalus, and that Crow injected in them even more fluid into their brains.
Wow.
So he was literally
That's
putting fluid on the
messed up.
brain.
That's really messed up.
And
Why?
it continues that the children killed Crow, burned the orphanage, and retreated the surrounding forest to supposedly feed on babies. Legend holds the Melonheads may be sighted along Windsor Road in Kirtland and Chardon Township. The Melonhead legend has been popularized on the internet, particularly on the website Creepy Cleveland and Dead Ohio, where users offer their own version of the story. A movie, Legend of the Melonheads, was released in 2010, which is based on the Ohio legend and various other legends in the Kirtland area. So that's just like crazy to think that these like hills have eyes kind of creatures are out there doing this, you know?
It could be. You never know. They just like, oh, this guy did a lot of experiments on us. We're tired of it. We're gonna kill him.
Exactly. I'm just kind of interested in all these different, you know, Ohio ones, just because we might be able to go like to that Kirtland area and try to like maybe drive down some roads.
So pretty much they're like a bunch of orphans he probably picked up, or just off the streets, like homeless kids, and started doing experiments on them.
Yeah, it sounded like he was just able to, because you know, obviously there's no parents to account for and nobody you have to worry about
Right.
there.
No one's gonna worry about them since they're orphans, and some people just don't care about them.
And then the last one I want to get into about Ohio, we have our own mermaids in Ohio. They're the mud mermaids,
Well,
which
just
are
because they're muddy waters.
yeah. Well, I mean, we have a lot of those.
Yes.
But they were a pair of strange amphibious animals encountered in October of 1891 in Vevey, a town located on the Ohio River in Switzerland County. The creatures were described as huge amphibious lizards with human features. They supposedly had human-like face, but dog-like ears. One of the possible explanation is there are several explanations to what the creature could theorize include an undiscovered species, a cryptid, which is what they would be, a pair of large lizards,
Yes.
or a pair of washed-up fish.
Meh.
It's been mentioned in a couple articles, and Weird Ohio is one of them.
Yes.
But it's kind of crazy to think that these like humanoid creatures are going around in like these muddy rivers.
Why
you know?
would you want to swim in those waters?
Well, yeah,
I
they're
wanna
kind
go
of
clear,
disgusting.
right? Gross.
And there's so many different things like related to like river monsters and stuff.
There seems like a lot of river monsters, and like you said, Bigfoot descends. Maybe they just like migrated to Ohio. Say, hey, this is beautiful. We'll stay here.
And Monster Quest and like Josh Gates and like what he
Yes.
does, they've explored some of these different cryptids, ones that we're not even going to mention today. I didn't want to touch too much on a lot of the big ones because if you're checking out an episode like this, you're probably interested in it already, you know, and have seen a lot of it. I mean, people know the word Bigfoot or Chupacabra before they know the word cryptid.
We just want to give the word out there that these could be descendants of said creatures, but actually in our home state of Ohio.
And we're not going to only talk about Ohio. We're going to be talking about, like we mentioned in the last episode, you know, Chris, you went through the military because, you know, you're a military brat. Your father was in the military, and he was stationed in Iceland at a point.
Yes, they have a lot of myth and folklore that is actually pretty interesting, you know.
So why don't you get into that since that's, you know, we touched on Ohio. Why don't you get into that since that's personal to you?
I don't know if anybody really, you know, Iceland, if you've been to Alaska or Iceland, they're pretty much on the same line. So both are beautiful countries, both are rich in their folklore, but more so Iceland because they got trolls, they got different types of hidden people, and you know, there's two types of hidden people that I like to talk about. The elves and the Alfar, as they call them. Hopefully I said that right. We don't get offended. Holden folk, hidden people. The Holden folk are said to be tall and handsome, while the elves are said to be rather strange with oddly proportioned features and gangly legs. And I would like to talk about these two because they do have a Christmas tradition. It's like the 12 days of Christmas here, but as a kid, we were told to put out a shoe out in our front door, each of our shoes. And if we were good that day, we would get like a bunch of candy. If we were bad, which of course, I've been bad a lot, you get rocks. And we set these out to like 12 days of Christmas. We set them out. We were told to set them out. And, you know, we got like a crap load of candy. And some days when we were very bad, which, sorry, I was, you got rocks. No one wants rocks as a kid. Come on.
Not at all, man.
And this is when I was in elementary school. I really didn't pay attention to it. But Iceland has a beautiful culture. As you know, it ascended from the Vikings back then. They came across the ocean, finding new land. But that's another story. But their culture is so enriched with trolls and hidden people that they actually made houses so they won't get bad luck. And they also made hidden people maps. They strongly believe in this. It's just nuts.
And I mean, we were watching some stuff about, you know, some documentaries on the lands, and they were going through some of the areas that, you know, they inhabit and everything. And it's crazy how the culture works and how so much of these people's lives can actually be influenced by creatures that may or may not exist. I mean, some of these may exist, some of them don't.
Even Josh Gates, Destination Truth, they went to Iceland about the hidden people. They won't even excavate the lands because they don't want bad luck from the hidden people. Or some say the rocks are big trolls that got caught in the daylight because they wanted to move stuff or something like that, and they stuck like that, and they don't even touch those.
I mean, there's a lot of weird things from a lot of different cultures. And I mean, you know, Germany has some weird ones, but one of my favorite, and they've actually made like a really, really crappy like B-level sci-fi movie about it, but it's called the Mongolian Deathworm. Now, this is something that is a result of a Ray Chapman Andrews book. It's like a 1926 book on the Trail of Ancient Men, and it's one of these monsters that is like a giant earthworm.
It's like 3 to 5 feet.
No.
Oh,
It's like
I saw one. They were talking about cryptids
2 to 5 feet. So yeah, round around.
that were in a desert. I forget which desert, but I actually read it.
Yeah, you're
somewhere.
about. Yeah. I think it's the same thing.
The same thing that they and they just suck.
Yeah, they latch on and they're just like
suck all your life out of you.
I mean,
That's
think about it like
creepy.
there are small bugs that can like drain your blood and like kill you eventually. Think about leeches and things like that. Imagine a 5-foot bug attached to you. How quickly that could drain the life out of you.
Like that.
Exactly. It's not something that you want to come into contact with. And you and I were talking earlier about the Ahul, and that's a ape/bat creature. So just imagine like a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee is stronger
with bat wings.
Yeah, it's stronger than man, And if it had a 8-foot wingspan, you wouldn't want to come across that.
You kind of reminded me when I watched Wizard of Oz when the witch had the flying monkey.
Exactly, but even stronger and
even
bigger
stronger
than
and
those.
bigger. Maybe they're descendants of the flying monkeys from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I would love to have my own flying monkeys, It's kind of crazy to think about such a big, giant creature like that out there terrorizing the earth,
That is scary.
It's very, very scary. I mean, I love watching bats outside. You've seen me go nuts over them, but
The bats were talking to us at the night at the bridge.
yeah. I mean, our last investigations were pretty great, and next episode we're going back to talking about the investigations because we have a lot of information.
We have so much information.
We got some videos out of a friend of ours from Kentucky, so we've got some interesting things. Just a nice shadow hand closing a door and
Right, that was awesome. Thank you, Michelle, if you watched this.
listen
For
to
sharing
this.
that video. Or listening to this. I'm sorry.
But it's so interesting to see the people that have come out and talked to us. Shouts out to the guys out at Paranormal Den.
Yes,
You
thank
guys have
Jason.
been wonderful, and everybody that's come out because of that. We had a really great time on our last live feed. Go check that out on the B.A.P.S page, Facebook page, Brunswick area Paranormal Society.
Yes, please.
And we've got a lot of videos going up. We had our first guy try to say what we're doing is fake. He just said it's fake, and I hit him with the only thing I fake is my orgasms, and it was one of those. He didn't really say much after that.
Hey, that was quick thinking, though.
Well, it's just annoying that somebody would come out and try to talk shit against what we're doing because we have no reason to fake it. We just go out there.
We don't.
We're live.
Why?
We have the
Why do
videos
that?
we put up, and then we take chunks out of them. But that's just because we have to literally throw just those parts up. We can't just upload all these mass videos.
Yeah, and I upload these videos because I know they're unedited and you don't want to watch all of it. We are trying to listen ourselves and tell you to pinpoint where these occurrences or what we've heard. We go back and forth with each other during the week because sometimes we just hey, we should look into this video. Or we go back, like some people said, maybe we should look into this and see if we find, and we always find something new, even in their older investigations.
Exactly, and it was last night. I showed you that video where I had asked the question, "Do you need any help?" And a couple seconds later, something said no, really quick, just no. And that's the last time I want to talk on the paranormal stuff because I want to save that for the next podcast.
Yes, so we get excited when our investigations. Trust
Oh,
me.
dude, I love it so much. But getting back to the cryptids, another interesting thing is these things called thunderbirds. And thunderbirds are these massive birds that have been reported to have 12 to 18 to over 20-foot wingspans. I mean, just imagine.
That's extreme.
Yeah, they could pick up, a human easily, that could pick up like probably a cow, you know, and that's a massive terrorizing thing.
That would be kind of scary.
Yeah.
Look up in the sky.
I
Oh
mean,
my
like-
gosh! Ah.
Think about when like a falcon or a hawk flies over you. You know, that's got like a 3 to maybe 4 foot wingspan,
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
5,
it
something
could
like
pick
that.
up a cat
But-
easily.
But that's like when it flies over you, that's got an intimidating presence. You
Yes.
see the shadow cast on the ground. Imagine a 20-foot wingspan, you know? And they've been reported all over, you know, in the Americas, you know, in Africa, in the Asias. And it's crazy to think about what an encounter with a bird like that would be.
So is it like they classify it as a bird, or could it be like the dinosaur pterodactyl? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
That they had
It could be
this
something prehistoric, you know?
prehistoric with a big wingspan.
Exactly, exactly. Alright guys, we're going to take a quick break like we usually do, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back.
Alright, so I had to take our break, you know. We always like to take a little break just because it gives us a second to reset, bullshit for a second, and then come back to you guys a little fresher, because getting into a full hour, you know, we could tend to trail off into other things.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
do. We trail off same, but it's still interesting. But we kind of do trail off.
It gets a little bit to where we're just having conversations about, you know, random stuff instead of keeping to the subjects.
Exactly.
But one of the other cryptids I want to get into, getting back into
Let's
it
go.
all,
Let's go. Let me know. Let me know.
is, and I may be pronouncing this wrong, and I'm sorry if I do, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's interesting. Imela Tuca or Ntuka, but it's
Sounds African.
well, it's out of the Congo, and it's called the elephant killer, and
What?
it's been described to look like almost like a rhinoceros. I'm sorry, a triceratops from, you know, the Jurassic era, but
No way.
lurks around in the water and then attacks creatures like elephants and stuff when they're, you know, by the water, because elephants don't normally have to worry about predators. You know, not many things going to attack an elephant.
No, not many things can attack an elephant.
But it's been, you know, the subject of a couple of different writers, and it had apparently horns like a Styracosaurus, and according to a Dr. Roy McCall, while researching the Congo for the Mokel Ibembe, the man had collected accounts of these Amela Ntuka, and that's,
Is this like Jurassic Park in Africa?
yeah, well, it sounds like this creature
Wow.
is something that even, you know, the elephants have to look out for, which, you know, like I said, they don't normally have to look out for many things.
No, because they're large and in charge.
Yeah, they're kind of the masters of their own domain. But speaking of elephants, there's an interesting character, or interesting creature, called the Groot Slang. And I've talked about this one in a podcast before. It's said to have like a front like an elephant's head, and like
Like
front legs.
Elephant man, kind of.
Well, no, like big like an elephant. Elephant Man was like a deformed person.
Right.
But to have a very large serpent-like back. So, like, imagine this giant elephant-sized, like, oh man, I mean, we're talking, you know.
He's like a giant or normal size, like a human.
Oh, it's bigger. It's like elephant size. So, it's said to have been like, I'd say like 40 to 50, I think something like 40 to 50 feet, something like that. But
You
just a
couldn't have-
serpent-like body with an elephant head coming at you.
Sure, it wasn't an elephant with bad skin that day. I don't know.
No. But it's out of South Africa, and it's just one of those, like, if a doctor was playing mad scientist, you know, that would be an interesting thing to come up
Which
with.
is not oddly strange anymore, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there playing mad scientist.
Right.
But that's just so interesting to think about, you know, going through some caves and some different things and coming across this, elephant head speeding at you, and then all of a sudden you see this giant serpent body by it. That's just ridiculous.
I guess the scientists or doctors who are doing these experiments are getting bored. So what can we do today? Let's connect like an alligator-like elephant person that's very tall.
And I mean, something that was once considered a cryptid was the giant squid. Yet we have recently found out the giant squid actually, not recently, but within recent in the sake of people in time, found out the giant squid is actually a real thing. It's a real creature out there.
They called it the kraken.
Yeah, but the kraken, people still report different kraken-like creatures.
And that was mistaken for one of the really huge whales. I forget what it's called. Don't mistake me, but someone reported that. I was watching something, and it could have been one of those huge whales that are bigger than the known whale of today. They're very rare. Don't quote me on it which one it was, but there's been many accounts of that too, mistaken identity as a serpent creature or something in the ocean.
I mean, there's so many different reports of creatures from the ocean, from mermaids to giant serpents to, krakens, like we were saying.
Yes.
I mean, there was even reports from Christopher Columbus. He saw UFOs. Well, not UFOs, but it's... I can't think of what it's called, but it's...
Something, I know.
But it's like when it's an underwater craft.
Underwater craft.
So he saw these underwater crafts that were going underneath the ocean. And, I mean, this is... in his personal diary. Yeah, this is in his personal diary as well. And it's crazy to think of Christopher Columbus, somebody who was going around spreading a lot of Europeanism. He was out there, reporting shit like that.
Even he is mysterious too, because no one can find out where he actually came from to this day. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, he's a weird. Anybody who wants to go out and try to go into that stuff. Then there's, the Burmese tiger, the Burmese tiger is a tiger that has been reported, and it's a blue tiger with black stripes. So just imagine seeing this beautiful blue tiger. And there's some really great pictures out there of people who have reported these things, but that's just such a beautiful thought. It's just a land of just these,
something different.
Yeah, blue tigers. That's
something we're not used to seeing every day. Because there's still undocumented species out there as we speak.
There's tons of undocumented stuff. I mean, there's scientists finding new species of animals we already know all the time, and it's not a far out thought to think that some of these things are actually living out there. One of the things I've always thought is that as these icebergs melt and all these large ice masses melt, and we have global warming and those things going on, would it be crazy of a thought to think that prehistoric creatures that may have been frozen instantly at a moment when there was a massive freezing may have been stuck in these areas where the freezing still stuck, and then all of a sudden started to thaw out through a process as they moved into the waters? I mean, you have to slowly move a fish into the waters whenever you want to get it to adapt to a new tank. Wouldn't it be crazy, or would it be so crazy for one of these or some of these prehistoric creatures to start melting out through and moving through that process as they get through the warmer water?
Like a deep sleep, but being frozen over time.
Exactly. I mean, there's people who are literally freezing themselves when they're about to die, and that's something that actually goes on in America and different places like that around the world.
And if you have money, but...
Well, anyway. A ton of money, you know? But then you get into, the McFarlane's bear out of Canada, which is said to be this grizzly bear, polar bear hybrid. And I mean, it's much larger than either creature through the mutation. And I mean, think about it, a polar bear with a grizzly bear. I mean, that's two
different bears.
Distinct creatures that, I mean,
populate the landscape.
It's not. Oh, I'm mistaken on the tigers. It's actually called the Maltese tiger. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I think I said Burmese or whatever, but it's a Maltese tiger.
To you as we are researching as we speak.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen some of these different things, but sometimes I have to go back and look at it because I totally forget what the actual like pronunciation or what the real name is sometimes.
Just like I explained, the Icelandic beliefs.
I mean, I've been exploring and
Scandinavian words are hard to pronounce. Don't. If anyone's Scandinavian out there listen to it, I'm sorry. I spent 4 years in Iceland as a elementary kid, so you never know. I'm trying to pronounce them right, and I would love to go back to Iceland and actually, you know, investigate as well. That's one of the other dream things, I guess.
I mean, we gotta have dreams, you know.
Yes.
I would love to get out there and go see that beautiful countryside and all the different areas they
It
have
is
through there.
beautiful.
I have a bunch of different areas around the world I'd like to go, and
Who doesn't?
oh yeah, I mean,
Especially
you
us.
gotta have a long list of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I get really into not only cryptids and aliens and you know the paranormal with the ghosts and stuff, but I get into just nature and just the things around us. I mean, Chris and I sit out by our fires and have a great time. You know?
Yeah. And some of our investigations have been out in parks, and sometimes we go out there during the day just to enjoy, you know, the disconnection from technology, everything. Just go out there, experience the nature. There might be something weird out there. Hey, we'll go. We're all for it.
You know, and getting back to some of the cryptids we've been talking about, out of Canada, we've got the Agapoko or Naitaka, which is a 40 to 50 foot long like sea serpent, which resides in the Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada. And this has been a terrorizing, you know, another sea serpent-like creature.
It's like the Loch Ness.
Yeah, and I mean,
Descendants probably.
this one's more serpentine than like the Loch Ness is said to be more like a
dinosaur.
Yeah, like a dinosaur prehistoric creature, you know. And it's interesting to see something so crazy with Canada being so considered mild mannered, you know, and not being into, you know, I don't know. I mean, they legalize weed, so I guess they're into some crazy shit.
Right. Right.
Can't knock anybody who's out there
No.
legalizing weed.
Exactly.
I really like the Fayanaga, which is the river monster out of Laos, Thailand, in Thailand.
Oh
And
yeah.
that one was talked about Destination Truth.
Yes,
and
it was.
He was going on. Josh Cates, you know, shout out to him. He's great.
Yes, he
But
is.
I really enjoyed how much the culture around that area. You know, I think it was like
They got a lot of strong belief as well. Just like I talk about Iceland, their spiritual beliefs and, you know, different gods and hidden people and spirits and bad luck. It runs strong.
Yeah, and those are cultures that really those people have no reason to lie to the world.
No, they don't.
They're living their lives. It's not like these things have like changed their lives in any way, and they're just telling these stories. You know, they have no reason to. I mean, they're like fishermen and farmers and
It came from the Scandinavians back in the day when they discovered Iceland. So all the beliefs, some of the beliefs are brought over, and they're just like Hindus. They believe in many gods.
And I mean, you know, that's one of the things that a lot of these creatures have in common with certain gods is that when you start talking about the Groot slang, you know, there's references to like Ganesha and everything in that, and there's people who tie some of these creatures to like
Other creatures.
yeah, or gods from
coming
like
down
ancient
and
history.
just being different creatures. That's another interesting subject. We got so many interesting subjects we like to talk about.
And that's why we're doing this podcast. We just want to bullshit with you guys, have you guys interact with us. Go check out the Facebook page. We've been getting a lot of hits on that.
Yes, we have.
And just go interact with us there, you know. If you have something you want us to talk about in an episode, message us. We just have on the Paranormal page, we put up somebody else's video they sent us, you know, obviously with their permission, but they wanted us to talk about it.
They want us to talk about it, and that person was quite hitting about their, I called them beautiful powers, or not weird powers, but they can sense things like me or Tyler cannot. we can still sense ghosts and things like, but some of these other people have an extra sense of like psychic ability, saying, "Hey, there's something there," and that we'll get into that the next episode.
Yeah, because we have so much, video and audio we're going over as we get through the different things. And I mean, we've got on multiple investigations. Chris went out by himself to the burial ground next to
By
the
the
house.
burial ground next
By
to
the
us.
burial ground next to us. And he was doing an investigation while I was off at a birthday party. And, it's a fun time. We're always out there, even if, one of us can get out there.
With this other person pointing me in a direction. And it's funny, she pointed in the same direction as that Civil War vet sitting right out there in that graveyard as we speak. It's in that area, which is pretty enticing. And and we'll talk about this person that we encountered twice now.
Yeah.
Jacob.
He's on our B.A.P.S page,
Yes, he is. I've talked about him. He's on the video once, but I didn't take a video of when my other investigators here that we heard a noise, and I turned on our ghost box. Thank you, ITC and Paranormal Den, for giving us this app. Much appreciated. And Jacob came up again. So, and pretty soon in one of our episodes, well, we gotta kick everyone out of our house, which they probably won't like. But we want to investigate our own house because I think Jacob is connected to our house in some shape or form.
And I mean, you saw an apparition within the first couple weeks of us being here.
And I thought it was you because you're a tall, slender individual.
Yeah, and I mean, now we have to go visit our own location to see if there's something here that we need to
explain.
Exactly.
I know we're trying to get off topic, but like I said, we have so much to talk about. We'll probably do another episode in a couple of days because we're doing so much in between, and we had a weekend of rest, of course, because we've done so much in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I mean, we've been so busy.
As Paranormal Den will say, it's like a paranormal hangover.
Yeah. No, it's been a fun time, and I love going out and doing those investigations. And the more we do, the more interesting stuff we can bring to you guys. And we're always going to just bring it in its rawest form. And we want an open discussion. We want you guys engaging with us because it's really interesting to get different opinions as we go forth. And I know that I like to bounce back and forth between the episodes and talk about different subjects. But eventually I think we're going to get so busy with the paranormal stuff that we're only going to be able to talk about that stuff.
I know. We'd like to talk about these other things too because, like Tyler, he's interested in these things too. And as for me, I'm just learning of this, and Tyler usually spikes my interest because I do remember things like the Icelandic culture and hidden people, elves, trolls.
And we've talked about how I believe that, elves, gnomes, fairies, things like that have existed on our universe or on our planet, and that they've either been driven into a deep hiding or have been made extinct by humanity's thirst.
Except for Iceland, because they kept an area where they were doing road construction, and they went around the area because they didn't want the bad luck, because that's how strong belief Iceland is in their culture, and they're sticking to it to this day.
And it's wonderful to think that humans still look out for something that, to some people, they don't even believe it exists. I try to keep my mind open to that because who knows, It
was kind of weird back in the day as a kid. It was like, are my parents doing this? Or it's like, wow, it was amazing. This culture is so strong. Because as a kid, okay, yeah, you want to be a kid. You don't really explore it. But now that you go back on that, it's like, wow, that was such an amazing culture over there.
And I mean, there's so many different reports just in people's private, journals and diaries throughout history from different areas of the globes that have overlapping creatures, and it's interesting that those have from so much distance apart been reported in the same ways.
Yeah, just like I've been saying, either be paranormal, spiritual, or hidden people or elves. There's always something out there watching you, and you just want to learn more. It's so interesting.
Keep your mind open to it, because just because you don't believe in it doesn't make it go away. Doesn't
No.
mean it's not there.
It's not gonna go away, and sometimes they can sense that, and they're not gonna talk to you. They don't want to talk to non-believers. Of course not.
Keep your mind closed. You just don't get to interact. I think in our last investigation we really got to see with somebody who was connected to the paranormal, the spiritual realm.
Extra senses.
Exactly.
People got those extra senses.
Dylan, man, shout out to Dylan. He was I can't think of his last name, but he was a wonderful help while we were out investigating, and we got up on that bridge area by the train tracks,
Yes.
and we were taking some pictures, and it was an intense feeling. I actually had to step down off after a while, because I just I felt like something was
Both of us were sensing something not right up there. So, and also, like I did out in the cemetery, because I just got to learn of this person that's also like Mustangs. That's a different topic. But anyways, and she helped me point out, she is like a psychic, a medium, or I call them, has, these special abilities to point us in a direction where sometimes we can't see, but we still sense, but can't see, where these beings and spiritual and spirits want to talk to us.
Yeah, we can only go so far. I mean, our minds are open, but there are people who have been given the gift of actually being able to interact, and I think that's amazing.
That is amazing, very amazing. It's very interesting.
Closing out this episode, though, let's do like a top 10, okay? And we'll go back and forth to break down to where we'll see what we see as the number one, okay? But number 10 on your favorite cryptids, what are you going to have to say? Number 10. What's down there a little bit, but not exactly your number one?
Most probably is where I experienced as a child, which not a lot of people probably experience or gone to Iceland, which is just like Alaska, is these hidden people, these elves, these trolls, and it's amazing, this culture.
Okay. I'm going to have to get number 9. I'm going to give to...
It's hard, isn't it?
No,
you can't
it
really,
is.
You can't really rank.
But I have, when I get to the top 5, I think we'll get a little clearer. You know what? Let's give number 9 to Bessie, because, I mean, no matter what, she's still just a knockoff Loch Ness Monster,
Yeah, it's just probably a dinosaur. I don't know how long dinosaurs lived back then, but you think she would be deceased or maybe passed on to another, or maybe there's 2 of them in there actually passing along, and over time we just don't know it.
Yeah. All right. What's your number 8?
Oh, jeez. What's that one that just like a Bigfoot but up in Alaska and the snow covered? Is that Yeti?
Yeti. Yeah, just
The
Yeti.
Yeti.
All right. You're gonna give it to the Yeti?
Yeah, I'll give it to you because kind of referencing off of Josh Gates, because he's done a lot of these stuff too. So, and number 7.
All right. I'm gonna go with. Let's go with the Dogman, the Ohio Dogman and the Michigan Dogman.
Okay, I'll give you that dog, man. No problem. And
Number 6.
Number 6. Maybe, I don't know if we covered, but the bigger Amazon freaking snakes, kind of.
Well, we talked a little bit about the peninsula, python. Okay,
We'll go with the pythons, but also there's a lot bigger ones.
So that was what,
mythical ones. Yeah, that'll call that be my number 7.
All right, cool. I got number 6.
Yeah, number 6. Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna go with the Ahul. The ape-like, bat-like creature, because that's pretty interesting, and
Wizard of Oz flying monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, you got number 5. What do you got? Come on.
Maybe any kind of mermaid, actually.
All right, cool. So we talked about the mud mermaids and just
Yes.
mermaids in general. So
Mermaids in general, because you never know, because people talk about those too.
all right, I got number 4.
Number 4.
All right. I'm gonna go with the Loveland frog because that's just such an interesting, and they've got these mystical
different.
appearances and everything
Hopefully
like
it's
that.
not an iguana with special powers sitting on the hind legs.
Yeah.
But he can't talk.
Exactly. All right. So number 3.
What did we talk about? Oh, okay. It's because West Virginia claimed it, but it started in Ohio because no one said anything, is the Mothman.
All right. So we'll do number 2 and number 1 together, okay? So number 2, and you might not agree with me, but I'm gonna go with the melon heads. Just these like weird, deformed, maybe like orphan
Hills
children.
have eyes,
Yeah.
kind of deformed people that just live off the land and just got rid of their scientists because they treated them cruelly.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that, there's a creature out there who is just maybe descendants of these different deformed people, these deformed orphans, and have just been like breeding amongst themselves. So you've maybe even got like inbred deformed orphans out there doing all these crazy
living
things.
off the land, doing, like you said, kind of weird and creepy to think about, just like the movie.
It's there's so much to think about with just the cryptid world, and bringing down to our number 1, and I'm sorry, I gotta give it to it, the Mongolian death worm. Just because, I'm sorry.
I've seen something similar with the desert one. That's just creepy to think about a freaking like leech that's like
a
2 to
5 foot
leech.
4 to 5 or 3 to 5 foot, like giant razor sharp teeth sinking into your leg and like instantly draining the life out of you.
You're done.
That's
Bye.
done. That's it.
You're done.
And speaking of done, and that's it, we are out of here for tonight. And just check us out on the next episode because we are going to be talking about our most recent investigations, the different evidence we've
we
caught.
got a lot to talk about. It might be even longer than an hour because we have so much.
I mean, we have a lot of space. I just bought some more space on Buzzsprout, so shouts out to Buzzsprout, and thank you guys for listening in. I'm Tyler.
I'm Chris.
And enjoy your night.
Bye.